The discovery happened by accident. A team of human scientists and Valari researchers were drilling deep into the ice of Antarctica, searching for ancient climate records. Their goal was simple: to learn about Earth's past weather. But what they found was something no one expected. At first, it was only strange readings. Metal, buried far below the frozen ground. The Valari scanners showed structures where none should exist. At first, they thought it was a mistake, a natural formation. But as they dug deeper, the truth emerged. There were ruins beneath the ice. Massive, walls carved with strange symbols, patterns so complex that even the Valari could not understand them. These ruins were older than the ice itself, older than the mountains, older than human memory. Some of the carvings glowed faintly when touched, as if they had been waiting for someone to return. The Valari panicked. This was not possible. No young race could have built such things. But the humans who looked at the symbols felt something different. Some of them swore they had seen the shapes before in dreams, in old books, in myths whispered by their ancestors. It felt less like discovery and more like recognition. Weeks later, the drilling uncovered something far greater. Buried in the deepest layer of ice was a ship, not an alien ship, not Valari, not Drail, not any known empire. It was human. The world held its breath. The Valari accused humans of forgery. They said the ruins must have been planted, the ship a trick. But their own instruments confirmed the truth. The ship was millions of years old, sealed in ice long before humans were supposed to exist. Its design was far beyond modern Earth's technology, yet strangely familiar. The galaxy could not explain it. The news spread quickly. Across the stars, people whispered of the impossible. How could a primitive world hold ruins older than entire empires? How could a young race have starships before most species even learned fire? The discovery shook the foundations of history itself. On Earth, excitement and fear grew side by side. Some humans were proud. They said, "We are not as small as the galaxy thinks. We are older, greater, stronger than they know." Others were afraid. If they had once built such things, why had they fallen? What had destroyed them before? The Valari tried to control the discovery. They locked down the site, sealing the ruins with guards and machines. But it was too late. The truth was already out. Humanity knew. The galaxy knew. And nothing could hide it again. Inside the ship, archaeologists found fragments of writing. Most of it was unreadable, erased by time. But one symbol appeared again and again, a symbol of a human hand reaching upward toward the stars. It was simple yet powerful. It said one thing clearly: we were here. Some began to call the ancient humans the first people, others called them the lost. But among themselves, humans whispered a different name: the Ancient Ones. For the first time, humanity looked at itself differently. No longer just beginners, no longer just dreamers staring into the sky. They were survivors of ages. Their blood carried memories deeper than history. Their myths were not imagination, but memory. Still, fear grew in the galaxy. What had happened to the Ancient Ones? Why had they disappeared? Were they destroyed by enemies? Did they destroy themselves? Or were they still here, waiting, hidden, in plain sight? The Valari Council debated endlessly. Some said Earth should be protected, guided, kept under watch. Others said Earth should be feared, controlled, even destroyed before the truth went any further. They argued, but none of them could deny the evidence. Humanity was not young. Humanity was not simple. Humanity was something else entirely, and, on Earth, ordinary people began to feel a strange pull inside them. Writers spoke of visions they could not explain. Scientists invented machines they could not remember designing. Children drew pictures of stars they had never seen, but which matched real constellations light years away. It was as if the buried ship had not just awakened history, it had awakened humanity itself. Something was stirring. Something was remembering in the quiet halls of the United Earth Council. Leaders met in secret. They knew the galaxy was watching them with suspicion and fear. They knew war might come, but they also knew something deeper, that Earth was not weak. The ruins beneath the ice were not a warning of death, but a promise of survival. Humanity had risen before. Humanity had fallen before. And now, they were rising again. The Volari could not sleep. Their scholars whispered in fear, "If humans were the ancient ones, then we are all children playing in their shadow." But the truth was larger than fear. The truth was that the past was no longer hidden. The ice had broken. The memory had returned, and the galaxy had only just begun to understand. The galaxy looked at Earth and saw nothing special. To them, it was just a small blue planet spinning quietly around an ordinary star, hidden in one of the distant arms of the Milky Way. The great empires of the stars did not bother with it. Why would they? Billions of worlds dotted the galaxy, each with life, each with stories. Earth was only one more world among countless others, too small, too far, too quiet. But they were wrong. Humanity's story was not new. It was not simple. It was not the tale of a young race rising for the first time. Humanity was far older than anyone could guess. It carried a history so deep that even humans themselves had forgotten it. They believed they were young, struggling up from the dirt, only now reaching toward the stars. But hidden beneath the ground in the deep oceans and inside the mountains were secrets, ancient truths waiting to be remembered. There were ruins no one could explain, stones older than human memory, carvings that spoke of skies and constellations no primitive could have seen, myths of fire from the heavens, gods who walked like men, wars that burned across the stars. Humanity thought these were only legends, but they were not. They were memories, faint echoes of a time when mankind was far more than it was now. Long ago, before the other races even began to dream, humanity had already touched the stars. They had built empires that stretched across light years. They had spoken to suns, built machines that lived like gods, and shaped worlds into gardens. But like all things, those empires fell. Wars came. Disasters struck. Ages turned. And humanity was broken again and again. Civilizations crumbled into dust, leaving nothing but whispers in stone, songs in myths, and shadows in memory. The galaxy never knew. The other species never saw. To them, Earth was a world rising for the first time. They never imagined that humanity had risen before, many times, and fallen each time into silence. And yet, there was something strange about humans even now. Something in their eyes carried a weight too heavy for a young race. Something in their souls burned like an old fire refusing to die. They were stubborn, too stubborn to remain broken. Every time they fell, they rose again. Every time they lost, they rebuilt. It was not just survival. It was memory, buried deep in their blood, pushing them forward, reminding them of what they once were. The people of Earth did not know the Yatai truth, but they felt it. They looked at the stars with a strange familiarity, as if they had seen them before. They gave names to constellations that were not just names, but echoes. They spoke of gods and titans, of heavenly wars, of fallen empires, never realizing they were remembering themselves. Humanity's myths were not myths at all. They were history disguised as story, truth wrapped in dream. And the galaxy? It was blind. The great powers looked at Earth and dismissed it. The Volari Empire, with its shining fleets and proud history, ignored the small blue world. The Dryel Dominion, ancient and cold, never bothered to turn its gaze. The syndicates, the federations, the councils of stars, all of them saw Earth as nothing, a child, a beginner, something too unimportant to matter. But time would prove them wrong, because the truth of humanity was not gone. It was only sleeping, and the day was coming when the galaxy would awaken it. For now, Earth lived in innocence. Its people fought wars with one another, built cities, and dreamed of the future. They looked at the night sky with hope, not knowing that it was not the first time they had dreamed such dreams. They were not ready to remember. Not yet. But deep in the dark places of the world, in deserts, in oceans, in frozen wastes, the past was waiting. Silent machines lay buried beneath mountains. Forgotten starships slept under ice. Records carved into indestructible stone whispered to the silence. And one day, someone would find them. When that day came, humanity would remember, and the galaxy would tremble, because humanity was not young, humanity was not weak, humanity was not new to the stars. Humanity was the old fire, the long shadow, the survivor of countless ages. Humanity was ancient, and the galaxy would realize it far too late. The first time the Valari came, the skies of Earth lit up with colors no one had ever seen before. People across the world stopped what they were doing to look up. The night sky shimmered with silver light as the alien ships descended like falling stars. For generations, humanity had dreamed of this moment, meeting life beyond their world. Now, the dream was real. Governments scrambled to respond. Scientists watched in disbelief. Ordinary people cheered or wept, their hearts filled with wonder. The aliens did not come as conquerors. They came in peace. Their voices were soft, their words full of kindness, their ships shining with beauty that felt almost alive. The Valari said they had traveled far across the galaxy to welcome Earth into something greater, a family of stars. For the first time, humanity felt small but also chosen. The Valari offered gifts, medicines that could heal sickness in moments, machines that could create food and clean water from thin air, knowledge of the galaxy, maps of thousands of stars and worlds. They offered technology that humans had only dreamed of, faster than light, engines, weapons that did not kill but protected, devices that could store the wisdom of whole civilizations. Earth celebrated. Cities threw festivals. News cameras followed every moment. Children painted pictures of silver ships, while elders whispered prayers of gratitude. Humanity believed destiny had arrived, but something unexpected happened. When the Valari gave humans their medicine, the doctors of Earth studied it. Within months, they discovered ways to make it even better. When the Valari explained how faster-than-light travel worked, human engineers redesigned the engines and made them more efficient, more powerful. When the Valari shared their maps of the stars, humanity recognized shapes in the constellations, shapes they had no reason to know. The Valari were surprised. At first, they laughed gently and called humans clever, quick learners. But as time passed, their smiles grew thinner. They noticed things they could not explain. When they showed humans distant star systems, some of the scientists whispered names, old names, from myths and legends. When they spoke of black holes, some historians brought forth stories from ancient writings that described the same things. How could this be? One Valari scholar asked a simple question. How do you know these things already? The humans had no answer. They shrugged and said it was a coincidence or perhaps imagination. But deep inside, some of them felt uneasy. They did not understand why the stars felt so familiar, why alien knowledge seemed more like memory than discovery. The Valari grew cautious. They sent hidden messages back to their empire telling their leaders that Earth was not what it seemed. Yet they stayed, because something about humanity drew them closer. Humans were unpredictable, emotional, passionate in ways the Valari did not fully understand. They were reckless, yes, but also brave. They could be selfish, but they could also sacrifice everything for one another. One Valari diplomat confessed quietly to her council, "These humans are not young. Something in them is old. Too old." On Earth, life went on. People learned new things every day, building, inventing, dreaming even bigger. They thought the Valari were teachers, but in truth, humanity was teaching itself, unlocking doors it had once closed long ago. In classrooms, children learned the Valari language faster than anyone expected. In laboratories, scientists leapt decades ahead with every piece of alien knowledge they studied. In hidden places, engineers began sketching designs not given by the Valari at all. designs that seemed to come from nowhere, as if pulled from the quiet whispers of their blood. It was not only knowledge, it was memory. And yet, most humans did not see it. They believed they were only clever students learning from their new friends. They did not realize they were remembering pieces of who they had once been. The Valari began to worry. They had visited many young worlds before. They had seen countless species rise from the dirt to join the stars, but never, not once, had they seen a species that moved so quickly. It was not normal. It was not natural. It was as if the humans were waking up, as if their minds had been waiting for someone to knock on the door. At first, the galaxy thought Earth would be a child among giants, but now whispers spread. Rumors moved between stars. Ambassadors spoke quietly in dark halls. Questions began to form. What if Earth is not what we think? What if humanity is not new at all? The Valari ship stayed longer than planned. They sent more scientists to watch the humans, to study them. But the more they looked, the more unsettled they became. Because every day, humanity looked less like a child and more like something else, something old, something dangerous, something the galaxy had forgotten. And though the people of Earth still celebrated, still believed they were only beginning their journey, the truth was already stirring. Beneath the surface, the past was not gone. The past was waiting, and the galaxy was about to learn that too. The galaxy had always believed in its own order. The Valari Empire saw itself as wise teachers. The Drael Dominion claimed to be the most ancient race. Other councils and federations believed history began with them. But now, the discovery of Earth's ruins and the ship under ice had shaken that order. For the first time in thousands of years, the great empires felt small. The news spread like wildfire. On every world and every station, people whispered the same words. Humans are not new. Humans are old. Too old. The idea was frightening. If humanity had once walked the stars before, then what else had they done? What power had they held? What had made them fall? And if they had risen again, what would stop them from rising higher than ever before? Fear crept into the hearts of leaders. In the Valari Council, voices clashed. Some shouted, "We must protect them. If they are guided, they will not be dangerous." Others answered, "No, they must be controlled. If they remember too much, we may not be able to stop them." In the Drael Dominion, the fear was colder. The Drael had always called themselves the firstborn of the galaxy. To learn they were not first, not even close, filled them with rage. Their leaders whispered, "If humanity rises again, they will not share power. They will take it. We cannot allow that." Across the stars, humanity became a question no one could ignore. Was Earth a child to be taught, or a storm to be feared? On Earth, life changed as well. The people were divided. Some felt pride. They looked at the ancient ship and ruins and said, "We are not weak. We are the ones who came before." Others felt dread. If we were once so great, why did we fall? What destroyed us before? Will it return? But even in fear, something grew. Humanity began to walk with straighter backs. They looked at the Valari differently. Not as masters, not even as equals, but as newcomers to a history humanity had already lived, the Valari noticed. They saw the confidence in human eyes, the unspoken strength. They saw children learning their language faster than any species before. They saw scientists unlocking secrets with unnatural speed. It was not learning, it was remembering. And that was what frightened them most. Rumors began to spread in the wider galaxy. Ships told stories of humans who could repair alien machines without training. Soldiers spoke of humans fighting with skill far beyond their experience. Even simple farmers and workers showed stubbornness, endurance, and fire that unsettled those who watched. It was as if humanity carried the weight of ages in their very bones. Soon, the galaxy began to act. Fleets were quietly moved closer to Earth's borders. Diplomats whispered threats behind smiles. Trade deals were slowed, and surveillance ships appeared more often in the skies. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer trusted. On Earth, leaders watched the change with grim eyes. They knew what was coming. Fear was turning into hostility. Suspicion was turning into preparation. And humanity had a choice. They could bow, accept the galaxy's control, and live as a child under watch. Or they could stand, embrace the truth of who they were, and face the storm that would follow. But humanity was never good at bowing. In secret, engineers worked late into the night, using blueprints drawn from the ruins. Pilots trained in hidden hangars. Old myths were studied compared to the ruins to unlock what was forgotten. Slowly, quietly, humanity began to prepare. The Valari ambassador saw the change. He reported back in fear. They do not act like a young race. They act like an old empire rising from sleep. The Drael were less patient. Their fleets grew restless. Some of their commanders spoke openly of cleansing Earth before it became a threat, but it was too late. Humanity was no longer only dreaming of the stars. They were awakening. Memories stirred in art, in science, in war. The ruins beneath. The ice were not just history, they were a key. And every day, humanity turned it further. The galaxy wanted to believe Earth could still be contained. That fear was only imagination, that humans were only lucky, only clever. But deep down, in the hearts of leaders and scholars, a darker truth spread. Humanity was not rising for the first time. They were returning, and nothing could stop what was coming. The galaxy trembled with fear. The pressure on Earth grew heavier with each passing day. The galaxy no longer looked at humanity with curiosity or wonder. Now it looked with suspicion. Fear spread among the empires like a shadow, and fear often led to violence. The first to act was the Drael Dominion. Their leaders had grown tired of waiting, tired of watching humanity uncover ruins and unlock secrets buried in ice. They sent envoys with hard voices and cold eyes. The message was clear. Humanity must submit. The Drael demanded Earth surrender its technology, its research, and even its freedom. They spoke of protection, but everyone understood what it truly meant. Control. Humanity would not be allowed to rise again. They would live under chains, watched closely, kept small and weak. The United Earth Council met in silence after the demands were read. Leaders from every nation sat together, their faces heavy with thought. Some argued that surrender might save lives. Others said surrender would only delay death. But one truth filled the room, clear as fire. If humanity gave in now, they would never stand again. The answer was silence at first. Then slowly, the silence became defiance. Earth would not bow. The Drael left angry. Their fleets began to move. Across the galaxy, other empires prepared as well. Some wanted to join the Drael, enforcing Earth down. Others watched, waiting to see what would happen. Few believed humans could survive what was coming. But Earth was no longer blind. In the deserts, in hidden caves, in mountains hollowed by secret hands, work had been going on for years. Engineers had studied the ruins. Pilots had trained in secret. Factories hidden in asteroids built machines that no empire knew about. Humanity was not preparing for peace. They were preparing for war. When the first Drael fleet arrived in Earth's orbit, the skies turned dark with their warships. People on the ground looked up in fear, watching the shadows blot out the sun. The Drael thought the sight alone would break human spirits. But instead of surrender, they were met with silence. Then the silence ended. From hidden launch sites on the moon, from secret hangars deep under oceans, from asteroid bases forgotten by time, the first human fleets rose into the stars. The galaxy thought Earth had only a handful of crewed ships. They were wrong. Humanity had hundreds, maybe thousands, vessels designed not only with new knowledge, but with old memory. Ships built with the strength of two histories, the present and the forgotten past. The Drael laughed when they saw them. They believed human ships would fall quickly like sparks in a storm. But when the battle began, laughter turned to silence. Human ships moved with speed and precision. Their weapons burned brighter, struck harder, lasted longer. Every time a Drail ship fired, humans adapted. Every time a weakness appeared, humans turned it into strength. They fought like no young race should fight. They fought like a race that had done this countless times before. Hours later, the first Drail fleet was gone. Not broken, not scattered, gone. The galaxy gasped. For the first time in centuries, a young world had defeated a great power in open war. The whispers spread faster than fire. The ancient ones have returned. The humans are awake. But victory did not bring peace. It brought greater fear. The Drail screamed for revenge. The Volari tried to calm the galaxy, but their voices shook with doubt. Other empires gathered fleets in secret. All of them began to see humanity not as a partner, not as a student, but as a storm that could not be stopped. On Earth, the people mourned their dead, but they did not despair. Instead, they stood taller. The ruins in the ice were no longer just history. They were a promise, a reminder that humanity had fallen before, but never stayed fallen. In quiet rooms, Earth's leaders spoke words that burned with fire. We will not be chained. We will not be erased. We have been broken many times, but each time we rise. This time, we rise for good. The spark of war had been lit. The galaxy wanted to crush humanity before it grew unstoppable. But humanity was no longer waiting. The fire of the past was awake in their blood, and the storm of the future was already here. The war had begun. And this time, it would not end the way the galaxy expected. The war had begun, and with it the galaxy finally saw what it had feared all along. Humanity was not fighting like a young race. They were fighting like something far older, something that had walked the stars before. Every battle revealed it more clearly. Every clash tore away the illusion of weakness. The Drail fleets were large, disciplined, and merciless. They believed sheer numbers would crush Earth. But humanity did not fight with numbers. They fought with memory. Their ships used strange tactics, maneuvers the Drail had never seen, but which seemed to come naturally to human pilots. Their weapons fired in rhythms that confused enemy scanners, rhythms that matched patterns buried in the ruins beneath Antarctica. It was as if the past was guiding their hands. Across Earth, strange things began to happen. In laboratories, scientists solved problems faster than ever, unlocking technologies no Volari had given them. Engineers designed new reactors and weapons that felt less like inventions and more like rediscoveries. Even ordinary people felt it. Dreams of stars, dreams of battles long ago, dreams of voices calling from the darkness. Humanity was awakening. The Volari scholars watching from afar trembled as they realized the truth. The ruins had not only been history, they had been keys. The discovery had unlocked something deep inside the human spirit, something buried for millions of years. Humanity was remembering, and with each memory they grew stronger. On distant worlds, the galaxy argued. Some said humanity must be destroyed at once before their awakening was complete. Others said it was already too late. The fires of the Yao past had been lit and nothing could put them out. But on Earth there was no debate. Humanity knew who they were becoming. They were not children of the stars. They were the parents. They were not beginners. They were the return of something the galaxy had long forgotten. The United Earth Council declared to its people, "We are not small. We are not weak. We are the descendants of the ancient ones, and we rise again." The words echoed across every city, every home, every ship. For the first time, humans everywhere felt the same fire burning inside them. They were united, not as nations but as a species. The next battles proved it. Human fleets no longer fought only to survive. They fought with fury, with confidence, with a memory of what it felt like to command the stars. The Drail lost again, and again their fleets torn apart. Other empires, once cautious, grew silent in fear. They could not understand how humanity was advancing so quickly. Ships that had been primitive only years ago now matched or even surpassed the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. It was not progress. It was remembering. On Mars, in hidden caverns, An ancient machine was found, still alive, still waiting. It recognized human voices and obeyed their commands as if no time had passed. In the deep Pacific, divers discovered a buried city glowing with strange light, walls untouched by the ages. Everywhere humanity looked, their past was waiting, ready to be claimed again. The Volari ambassador sent one last desperate message to his council. It is no use. The humans are not becoming something greater. They are becoming themselves. They were always greater. And we are only now beginning to see it. Fear turned to silence. Silence turned to awe. Across the galaxy, leaders watched humanity rise, and they began to understand a truth they had ignored for too long. Humanity had not been a mistake. Humanity had not been lucky. Humanity had not stolen knowledge from others. They had always been the first. The awakening spread faster than any weapon. It was in the hearts of children who looked at the stars and felt no fear. It was in the hands of builders who created ships stronger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was in the courage of soldiers who fought not as if they were new to war, but as if they had always known it. The galaxy trembled, because now it was clear. Humanity was not rising for the first time. They were returning. Their fall had been only a pause. Their silence had been only sleep. Now the sleep was over, and the fire of the ancient ones had returned to burn brighter than ever. The war was no longer a question of survival. It was a question of destiny. And humanity's answer was simple. They would never fall again. The galaxy could not stay silent forever. Humanity's awakening had gone too far. The ruins were alive, the ships were growing stronger, and the victories against the Drail had shaken every empire. Fear turned into desperation, and desperation turned into unity. For the first time in ages, empires that had been enemies stood together. The Volari, the Drail, the Syndicates, and a dozen more powers formed a coalition. They built the greatest armada ever seen in the stars, thousands upon thousands of ships, stretching farther than the eye could see. Their goal was simple: destroy Earth before it became unstoppable. The day came when the sky itself seemed to tremble. Humanity's sensors screamed warnings as the coalition fleet entered the system. The void filled with warships, their lights burning like a false constellation. From the surface of Earth, people could see them in the night sky, like stars that should not be there. The galaxy believed this battle would be quick. They believed humanity, no matter how clever, could not face such numbers. But they had forgotten one thing. Humanity had faced extinction before. They had fought wars beyond counting. They had died and risen again. This was not new. This was memory. The united Earth fleet gathered. Ships rose from Earth, Mars, and the hidden. Bases carved into asteroids. Carriers, cruisers, battleships. All of them carried the fire of the past in their cores. Each vessel was not only steel and weapon, but symbol. They were proof that humanity had remembered who they were. As the fleets faced one another in the cold silence of space, there was a moment of stillness. The galaxy held its breath. Then, the storm began. The coalition struck first. Waves of fire poured from their ships. Weapons meant to erase planets, shields meant to crush resistance. They came with the confidence of giants. But the humans did not break. They moved with speed and grace, their ships dancing between enemy fire as if guided by unseen hands. Their weapons tore through shields once thought unbreakable. Their tactics shifted too quickly for the coalition to understand. Every move, every strike, felt like something humanity had done before, like echoes of battles fought in forgotten ages. The coalition grew desperate. They sent more ships, more power, more fury. But the more they sent, the harder humanity struck. The united Earth fleet fought not just with weapons, but with will. Every human pilot carried the same fire in their heart, the fire of survival, the fire of memory, the fire of a race that refused to die. And they were not alone. From the ruins of forgotten worlds, ancient machines awoke. From hidden corners of space, old allies stirred. constructs and guardians humanity had left behind in ages past. They rose now, answering the call of their creators. The galaxy watched in terror as forgotten weapons and ancient war forms joined the human fleet. The coalition's numbers began to crumble. Ships that had stood for centuries burned in silence, falling one by one. Fear spread among their ranks. The stories were true. Humanity was not a child. Humanity was the ancient ones returned. On Earth, the people watched the battle unfold on giant screens, their hearts pounding with every explosion. Fear was there, but so was pride. They were no longer small, no longer ignored. They were fighting for their place, for their right to rise again. Hours turned into days. The war became a storm without rest. But slowly, surely, the tide turned. Humanity did not falter. Humanity did not fall, and at last, the greatest fleet the galaxy had ever gathered lay in ruins. The battle was won. The galaxy was silent. Empires that had once called themselves mighty now looked at Earth with awe and dread. They had united their strength and still failed. Humanity had risen against the full weight of the galaxy and survived. But for humanity, victory was not just survival. It was something deeper. In the fire of battle, in the unity of their people, in the awakening of their past, they had remembered fully who they were. They were not the lost. They were not the weak. They were the first. The ancient ones had returned. The battlefield was silent. The stars that had burned with fire and fury were now quiet once more. Where thousands of enemy ships had stood, only wreckage drifted, shattered metal, broken fleets, and dreams of empires that had thought themselves eternal. In the heart of this silence, Earth still burned with life. The united Earth fleet floated like guardians above the blue world, their hulls scarred, their weapons dimmed, but their spirits unbroken. They had faced the impossible and survived. The galaxy was watching. Across countless systems, eyes turned toward Earth. Rulers and generals whispered in fear, scholars argued in confusion, and citizens sat frozen in disbelief. The truth was now too heavy to deny. Humanity was not young. Humanity was not new. Humanity was the old flame that had once guided the stars. They were the ancient ones, and the galaxy had realized it too late. But victory came with a cost. Every ship in the human fleet carried scars. Many would never return home. Families on Earth wept for loved ones who had given their lives in the void. Cities prayed for the fallen, their names carved into memory. The battle had been won, but the price was heavy, as it always was. On the surface of Earth, people stood, beneath the night sky, looking up at the strange new constellation of burning wreckage. Children clutched the hands of their parents, asking what it all meant. And for the first time, parents had an answer that filled them with pride rather than fear. "It means," they whispered, "that we are not small. We are not weak. We are not forgotten. We are the ones who came before, and we are here again." The galaxy's leaders met in secret. Some demanded another war, others begged for peace. But in their hearts they all carried the same truth. They could not destroy Earth. They had thrown everything into the fire and had been defeated. Humanity had risen beyond their reach. Messages poured into Earth from every corner of the stars. Some were threats, full of anger and fear. Some were pleas, full of respect and hope. And some were simply silence, acknowledgement that the old order had ended. For humanity, the choice was clear. They could rule through fear, as the galaxy had once done. They could demand surrender, kneel the stars beneath them. But they did not. Humanity had been forgotten once, buried under ages of dust and lies. They knew the pain of silence. They knew the wound of being cast aside. And so they chose differently. Instead of chains, they offered hands. Instead of conquest, they offered alliance. Instead of darkness, they offered light. The message was sent across the stars. We were the first, yes. We were the ancient ones, but we are also your kin. We are not here to destroy. We are here to remember and to rise together. For many, these words were harder to face than weapons. Empires that had lived on pride struggled to bow their heads. Yet slowly the galaxy began to shift. Some reached back with trembling hands. Some whispered of hope for the first time in centuries. Some wept, remembering the stories their ancestors once told of the ones who taught the stars to dream. Humanity was no longer alone. On Earth, life began to change. The ruins that had once been silent now shone with living light. Ancient machines were rebuilt, not as weapons of war, but as bridges of knowledge. Children learned not only of their history on Earth, but of their history among the stars. The people who had once wondered if they were forgotten now walked with their heads high. They knew the truth. They carried it in their hearts like fire. Yet deep inside, humanity also carried a warning. They remembered what had happened long ago. They remembered how the galaxy had turned against them, how fear had burned brighter than hope, how betrayal had led to their fall. They would not make the same mistake twice, and so, while they opened their hands to the stars, they also kept the flame of strength alive. Their fleets would remain, their defenses strong, their unity unbroken. They had learned to be kind, but also to be ready, because the galaxy had realized the truth too late. Humanity was awake now, and nothing in the universe could put them back to sleep. The story of the Ancient Ones spread like wildfire. From the smallest mining colony to the greatest halls of power, voices whispered the same words. They are back. Fear remained, yes, but so did wonder, so did awe, and so did hope. Somewhere, in the far reaches of the galaxy, a child looked up at the stars and whispered to herself, "If the Ancient Ones could rise again, maybe we all can." That was the gift humanity gave back to the galaxy. Not just power, not just survival, but the reminder that every race, no matter how lost, could find itself again. Above the Earth, the human fleet moved in silence, guardians of a world reborn. The stars stretched endlessly before them, waiting, calling. Humanity had walked them once before. Now they would walk them again, not as shadows, not as forgotten, but as what they truly were: the first, the eternal, the Ancient Ones. And this time, the galaxy would never forget.